I'm your host, Byron Campbell. Our co-host, Christiali, is evening, but he will join us next week. So welcome to the program. I want to say that in the second half of the program, we'll have a call-in segment. And again, I want to appeal to anyone wishing to call to be respectful. In our community chat, I want to, of course, note that tomorrow is Corpus Christi. It's a big deal for us. It's a food security issue, a lot of backyard gardening taking place. The season is great, the weather is good. We now have the beginning of the rain season, and many of you would have known that we had thunder, in fact, several times in the past couple of days, so it's a go. So those of you who traditionally done this, tomorrow is an excellent day to do this. So I encourage you all to do something in your backyard, the corn and peas, whatever it is, plant something. Because we know, in fact, I was just listening again to the news, international news, that the war in Ukraine, with the damage of a major dam, what the experts are indicating that the food issue relating to price and supplies are likely to be affected further. So be mindful of this and ensure that we can feed ourselves. I want to also mention briefly that, in the news this evening, I was a bit disturbed. The fact that Grenada, as a member of the Commonwealth, Grenadian citizens now requires a visa to enter Canada. I don't think it's a time for debate on the issues. I think what we should do is to fix it. Let's determine from the Canadian government why we are not included with Trinidad and other Caribbean islands, and let's get down to this and ensure that it is corrected. Well, let me take the opportunity to introduce our first guest for the community forum program, and we have with us Mr. William B. Joseph. Welcome, William, to the program. Let me tell you that William Joseph is an author. He's a public policy analyst, management practitioner, political and social commentator. He's responsible for the community patriotic vine. Let me call it this, patriotic vine. But William, of course, comes to this program very qualified. He has LLB honors from the University of Huddersfield, United Kingdom. He has a distinguished career as a permanent secretary in the ministry, served for five ministries. He's been the director of tourism, ambassador to CARICOM and the OECS, chairman of Grenada Maritime Boundaries Delimitation Negotiation Team. His directorship on some 13 statutory bodies. Literary works, he's an author, writing several pieces, including Fruitful Days in 2014, essays on the Grenadian civilization, 2 editions, among others. William, welcome to Community Forum.
Good, Byron. Thank you very much. Delighted to. I am not so sure that I am going to be happy throughout, but nonetheless, I am giving myself some courage. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
We are really privileged to have you, William. Of course, our very first guest for this program. You have, of course, have a weekly commentary dealing with politics and public affairs. It's called the Patriotic Vine. What motivates you to do this, and what is its purpose, William?
Yeah, well, it's an important question, and I would say that the effort there reflects my continuing preparedness to be of service to the Grenadian public. In this case, the effort is dedicated to educating people on matters in public affairs, sharing analyses on issues and so on that would be of interest to people in the country. Patriotic because essentially it is centered and concerned with Grenada's well-being. And it's not just the physical country, but primarily the well-being of all of us as Grenadian citizens. That is something that drives me. I suppose it is connected with that long career you talked about. And having said long, I am happy that you didn't go through the long list of academic work.
I gave a short version of this. Yeah.
Yes, yes. You know, one of the things that destroys us in life is what the Bible calls the pride of life.
Yeah.
It's the ego thing. The ego thing.
I must mention this, that one of your quote is that we cannot turn back the hands of time, but we can choose whether those hands will be brass, bronze, or metal. Yeah?
No, yeah, that's important. And I tell myself that all the time. I published it recently.
Yeah.
But it is very important. We are not entirely helpless in the circumstances, that impact us. And so we mustn't throw up, our hands and say, well, there's nothing we could do. The thing is set.
Yeah.
Well, some things are set, but it doesn't mean that you can't reset.
Yeah.
That's a popular term now. We don't say onset anymore. We say reset.
Reset, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and therefore we do have choices.
Yeah.
And to the extent that we are people who are well able to think for ourselves, I think that we ought to be broad-minded enough to decide what is going to guide us in life, right? So the clock is wooden, the hand of the clock is wooden, it could be brass.
So in other words, you're saying you can determine.
You can, that's the point.
What is it? What the hands are.
Yeah, you fix the thing.
Yeah. William, a lot of your commentaries, of course, is mainly politics and public affairs. And what I want to say that in recent time, the Delma Thomas resignation from the NNP and crossing the floor have dominated the political scene. Certainly, it's an obvious loss to the NNP. Politics in part is a numbers game, more or less. I mean, and clearly in this case, there's one less. Your voice comments on this in the Patriotic Vine. In fact, you've said that she's been, for you, the woman of consecutive years, 2022 and 2023. And you noted that the theme of her testimony in that famous meeting at Maribor was, you use a lot of C's here, countable to 8. You said it was confusion, you said it was corruption, you said it was conscription, you said it was compassion, conviction, community, country, and character. You said she is shifting the character of Grenadian politics. How and in what way, William?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit.
Sure.
The subject matter you've introduced is one which I think people should pay some regard to in terms of the history. And in our very modern history of politics and political behavior in Grenada, especially with regard to people in frontline politics, I think the first experience we had of that kind was that involving Dr. Wellington Friday, who was a deputy political leader of the GNP, Grenada National Party, for many a year. And the GNP would win 2 seats. It would be Herbert Blaze's seat in Carriacou, and it would be Wellington Friday in St. Patrick East. So they battled the GOLP, they battled Uncle Gary.
Yeah.
And so we knew, you said Friday, and everybody knew that is GNP, he is GNP. And then, alas, it transpired that Friday had gone to bed with Uncle Gary. Uncle Gary, and people were shocked. I'm talking about something that I didn't understand at the time. I could not even vote, but I knew of it. Yeah. So I'm trying to say that there's been precedent as far as this issue is. More lately, we had other cases a number of folks who primarily were either NNP and switched to NDC, or NDC and moved to NNP. A number of very popular and very well-known cases in that regard.
So seen this before.
Yeah.
Crossing the floor, so to speak.
Yeah. So the Delma Thomas matter, it touched me deeply, not with respect to NNP politics, but with respect to her testimony on the issue. I don't know that I had seen a woman demonstrate that kind of strength, and draw it from her upbringing and her socialization and so on, and come in a period of a storm in her life where she's relying on that to make a statement. So one might characterize it in many different ways. I have chosen to characterize it in the ways in which I have. And I think it's good for Grenada that women would show up and be counted and force attention, the attention of the public, to say, listen, it's not just the ride and the happy ride and the pomp and the ceremony of holding office and so on. There are other matters that are important. And one of the critical things in this politics for me, and I'm not in frontline politics, so I'm talking about it from an analytical point of view, is this question of relationship. If we are going to be in a political party, the extent to which we commit ourselves, the extent to which we remain engaged in there, would have a lot to do with the relationships that are shared between people. And if significant relationships are breached for all kinds of reasons, then people are entitled to reset. So that's how I saw it. There's a bigger issue than the fact that she's crossed the floor. That is not as big for me.
But another dimension of your comments had to be that you said it was a patriotic challenge for the NDC. It will be a challenge of vision for the government. You need to explain this, really.
Yeah, you see, here you have someone who is moving from an established and strong political party where the individual herself had been a very significant player at the ministerial level and otherwise. Won the constituency, I think, on 2 or so occasions, and deciding to associate herself with the NDC. It means, therefore, that she's going into an environment that is new. Now, the NDC won the last elections, but I don't know any of us who can talk with certainty regarding the NDC environment. In other words, what are the dynamics in there? And I'm happy that I had raised that issue, because a few days after the event up at the constituency,
Maribor, I think it was.
Maribor, the Prime Minister blinked. He came in the public and talked about, the fact that it was not quite ready for her to be in the cabinet.
Yeah.
He blinked.
He actually said that?
Yes, words to that effect. That's
Okay.
my understanding of what he said.
Okay.
Right? And I stand corrected, but I'm pretty sure that he made a pretty clear statement regarding that she was not going to be in the cabinet, and there were issues. So the point I'm trying to make is this, that every political organization exists in a certain ecosystem.
Yeah.
The NDC has its ecosystem. There are several different forces in there, and they are very obvious. You had an old guard, if you will, and then you had some young and new people in the politics join in there. The last time we had that with the very NDC back in 2000, you had some young guys joining the old guard, took them to success, and then we had the blow up.
Right.
You see, so it is very important, and so one of the challenges there is to ensure to build stability. Stability, and that connects up with the importance of this issue of patriotism, because we, the citizens, cannot enjoy what we are entitled to enjoy if there is political instability, surrounding and involving the important political parties, and especially when your party is in office.
Willie, you, in your comments again, and I'm making reference to the patriotic vine, in your description of the NNP reign, as we're coming out of this, you described the period as one of decadence, deception. You went on to use terms as power hunger, yet some will argue it was a period of crisis, a global pandemic of hardship and challenges the world had never seen. And yet the NNP administration prevailed, in terms of the economics results as related to the World Bank and other indicators. Is there a contradiction in your statement?
There is no contradiction. And I pray that, as far as I'm concerned, I pray that there isn't any at all at a higher level.
Yeah.
No. There is a time when, for me, Dr. Mitchell was, and I said it publicly, and I say it again this evening, the most developmental of the leaders on show at the time, as far as I was concerned. And he talked about philosophy at the time. And if you trace the thing, in more recent years, he's abandoned this talk about philosophy and so on. So what is grounding him? Okay? So he is moved from a solid footing, because you need to be grounded. We need to know what you believe in. All right? Otherwise, you're going to give us gold dust and so on and tell us it's solid gold. So my issue is that the NNP, of course, has done well in terms of winning elections, and they have also done well in terms of running the affairs of Grenada. There is no doubt about that. But at the same time, it came with a big load of negatives. So it is fair for one to point that out. All right? I talk about corruption and corruption savings. I talk about bringing embarrassment to Grenada, back with this briefcase thing and so on and so on. So the public knows that what we've had is a mixed bag as far as the NNP is concerned. So my statements are not contradictory. It is true that they have done well in some respects, and it is also true that they have let us down and they have done badly in other respects.
We have to take a break here. Viewers, we'll be right back.
Concerned about your general health and wellness?
Do you need to know your complete blood count, lipid profile, or HbA1c?
Maybe you need to get a renal, thyroid, or liver function test.
Interested in STI screening? For HIV, syphilis, herpes, chlamydia, or gonorrhea?
All of these tests, plus hundreds more, are available at Allied Laboratories.
Allied Laboratories welcomes you. You can find us here on Gladstone Road in Grenville, in the building next to Calico, on the second floor, adjacent to Dr. Isaac's office. Or you can find us here on Grand Anse Main Road, adjacent to South Winds, opposite the entrance of Excel Plaza. Contact our Grenville branch at 410-3488 or 419-1588, or send us an email at alliedlabgrenville@gmail.com. You can contact our Grandlands branch at 403-3488 or 404-3488 or send us an email at alliedlabstgeorge@gmail.com.
Fit for life and allied laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
We are everywhere. Magic 88.9. Hello. Hi.
Don't you dare touch the dial. Magic 88.9 FM.
We are on Magic 88.9.
Magic FM in Guam.
Oh yeah, great news. And that's great news for the whole of Grenada. I just walked the whole island with Liquor Radio and I pick up Magic FM 88.9 right from the island. And that is not all, you know. You could get MTV on channel 18 on cable and channel 10 on Green Dot. But wait, you can also get MTV on channel 9 and 10 with just your regular TV with your rabbit's antenna.
So you mean I could get MTV anywhere in Grenada with all cable or Green Dot?
Yes, MTV extend the reach through the whole island.
Magic 88.9.
Welcome back, viewers. I'm here with William Joseph, a political analyst dealing with politics and public affairs. You wanted to conclude one matter just before the break.
Yeah, you had raised this question of the challenge of patriotism.
Yeah.
And with respect to the Delma Thomas issue.
Yes.
And essentially, for me, it represented an opportunity for us to shift the character of our politics away from party interests, which is the dominant thing at this period, up to this time, to a broader concern with the welfare of the Grenadian citizen. You see, that for me is important, because if you look at it, we live under the dictatorship of political parties. That is the system we operate under. All right, and it's party X today and party Y tomorrow, and whatever these parties say, that's what. All right, if they say we eating fig alone, we eat fig. If it's saltfish with a fig, we eat saltfish with a fig. But we eat based on what the parties say. All right. So I think we need now to broaden our democracy, the Grenadian democracy, and we should do so especially because of our experiences over these first 50 years of our independence. We have not had an ordinary 50 years.
And I want to come to this subject in a moment. But William, I want to go back a bit to, we were talking about the political parties, and one of the issues, of course, prevailing is the NNP and leadership. And in one of your pronouncements on the NNP, you stated that Keith has ownership of the party.
Yes.
In reference to who has the money. You were making the point, and please correct me if I misquote you here, that regarding the leadership succession, that Peter had given himself to diversion, retribution, politics, and conscription. What can he sell, I think, was your comment.
Yes.
In fact, you conclude by saying that he has earned political death. But William, this is in the context that Peter is recognized as a people's person, representing the small man and serving with distinction during his contribution in both the NDC's government and the NNP government. So are you saying he's unworthy for leadership?
You see, leadership must always be appropriate to the circumstances, the prevailing circumstances. There was a time when Keith Mitchell was suitable for leadership in Grenada. There's a time when he's not suitable. The same goes for Peter. And then many of us would say to you that 15 years ago or so, perhaps a little less, we could see Peter succeeding and be the leader of Grenada. 15 years later, that has changed. It has changed. So we must reckon with not just with his record of having won the tongue of St. George a couple of times, having been a minister. It's not just that. The other stuff. So when I draw attention to division, no one can contradict that. It is fact. When I draw attention to conscription, no one can contradict that. It is fact. So I am wrestling with this thing in my mind. What is this brother? What is he going to sell us? He's not a figure that is, you can say, well, this is going to unite the people. What is his politics? I don't know. I really don't know. He's been a member of the NNP, but I don't know that he believes in the NNP and their political philosophy. I don't know that. I mean, he can tell me, but I would challenge him to speak honestly on that, because I do believe that he belongs to another political order in terms of his political outlook. So really, and that area that we call left politics, let me be blunt. For a lot of us in Grenada, that time has gone. It has gone. There is no successful communist regime anywhere in these parts.
But he's not known to be promoting.
You know what I mean when we say communist? We put the slash socialists, we put the slash this and that and the other. There's no success there.
He's a Democrat. I mean, he operates within political organizations.
He's a Democrat. Keith wouldn't agree with you. They don't have to share the same philosophy when it comes to that. So there you are. There's no doubt about that.
In the case of, against Dr. Mitchell, Keith Mitchell, that is, you said it was a people's case, and the result will create opportunity, and that opportunity you called unity. In fact, you talked about a unity tent. Politics now has a new meaning where power is handled lawfully and trust is honored faithfully. This is to say, you say it is a requisite for a beautiful government. Utopian? Wishful thinking?
No.
Where in the world does this exist?
No. I'm not saying that. You see, the notion of beautiful government.
Yeah.
I think that's the central crux of your issue. A minute or two ago, I adverted to the fact that we'd gone through so much in this Grenada in the first 50 years.
Yes.
Political leadership has messed us up. By and large. Mm-hmm. By and large. So we owe it to ourselves, in my view, to search and find different arrangements by which we are led. So what is this notion of beautiful government? It's emotional and so on. But really it is saying we need preferentially to have a regime in place, A, that respects the citizens of the country, B, that does not abuse political power in any way or for any reason, C, that would pass laws to keep us safe and to ensure that there's order and so on, and not to pass laws, for example, to restrict our liberties and our freedoms and so on. So that's what I'm talking about.
Give me an example of a beautiful government.
I don't have to give you an example. So again, I am saying...
Some believe it's going to be politics as usual. They've seen it all before.
No. By the way, I am not claiming that we now have a beautiful government,
You want a beautiful government.
I am saying that that's what we deserve.
Oh, that's what we
deserve.
And
I am challenging the present administration to work itself to that point, where they give to us a beautiful government. And I've defined that more fully elsewhere and so on.
Yes, I've seen.
But be very clear. I am not saying, and I will never say, sitting here this evening, that we now have a beautiful government in place. We don't. It is a course that must be run. Very deliberate actions, very deliberate relationships, and so on. Very specific accountabilities, and the treatment of the people and the people's interests over that of the narrower individual interests of those who are in the political parties at the highest level. So I'm saying, and I'm saying that again, I'll shut up at this after that, that we deserve that because we have gone through so much at the hands and minds of people who have led us in the politics, and many, they've brought us to tears and shame. Tears and shame. And you could put some other adjectives and so on. But we've had problems with them, and I think that for the next 50 years, we ought to be working towards that. Now, the political party is not going to give it to us as a gift. You see, we the citizens need to push them and say, this is what we want of you. And that's why I said in the piece, the case is the people's case.
Yes. So Willie, yeah, so I want to go there. So in one of your most recent commentaries, you're talking about the creative industry. In fact, one of the statements you said is it's a tradable money, a money generating industry. It's tradable, this industry, and it has the capacity to generate money. You refer to the recent conference, Unleash, being extremely successful, and absolutely, in fact, I recall killer. I mean, oh wow, that's all I say. But by all accounts, it was a very successful conference. In fact, you referred to it as an exciting conference, you know. But in this regard, you felt, and I think, and I heard a similar statement when you spoke about the transformatives agenda, and you felt, yes, you like what you're hearing, you like the term, but what you were seeing was scattered policies announcements on both the creative industry and the transformative agenda. You're calling for documentation on these matters. You want the nation to read popular education. You're asking for policy. You're asking for strategy. Why is this important at this time? And let me just add here, you made a reference to the UK government minister for the creative sector, and where they outline a policy, and you felt that this is an example, some reference for us. But why is it important that a strategy and a policy be articulated?
You see, if we wanted to have just a showcase, and we brought all our talented guys and girls together, and they shared their experiences and their dreams and so on, that would be one thing. We can end it there. But we are saying that we want an industry. We want an economy to be built on that resource endowment that Grenada has. And I've referred to it as a new economic frontier. Mm-hmm. So if we are going to take it from that angle, then it seems to me that when it's like the Black Wizard singing "When the Carnival Over." When the show is over, the Unleash is over. Yeah. We need to sit down and sort out how we are going to move from initiative to industry, because it's going to involve serious planning, a serious consideration of a number of important matters, investments and so on. What kind of tax incentive regime we're going to put in place to support the industry. So because the industry has to be made to work for the public good. So we begin by saying, okay, this thing is heavily monetized in today's world. We reckon that we are earning $5 million from it. I'm just using numbers. But we could earn 500 million. So then that must be our goal. And if we say 500 million, we can say, watch, that's 10% of our GDP. I am not being accurate.
Yes, yes.
So we
Exactly.
must specify the goal. If we specify the goal, then we must address how do we get there? What are the things we must do? We're going to allow the guys to continue to just practice and sell their skill and their art wherever they will, or are we going to channel it in some controlled direction and set up a regime that fits into the world system of tradables in that era, because it exists. You go and you pull up any one of the very active African countries now in this, and you see the policy statement on, for example, transformation. Rwanda. You go online and you read it.
Well, isn't it not early? One would argue, 1 year in, that it's early to have these.
Well, when do you do it? You do it at year 3 when you're about to face the elections.
And as we talk about this, I mean, 1 year in with the NDC administration, what is your verdict? What is your assessment, William?
Yes.
I mean, briefly, yes.
Well, I have to be brief.
Because that can take.
Yes. I know. Listen. We have first of all, a lot of weight must be given to the fact that the Grenadian people are breathing. I don't sense or have a sense that people are concerned about this and that to any extent that would cause them to lose sleep. So there's been relative peace and stability in the country since the election. There are some things that are being programmed with the economy. Some things have happened that the regime is entitled to celebrate. And I'm sure they will say that there are things in the pipeline that they are working towards. Of course, always giving credit to the things that they inherited, because that is the issue, the continuum issue regarding
the business of government continues.
Yes. But let us take these two issues. It is new when you say transformation agenda, and therefore you have an obligation, in my view, not just to present it as rhetoric, but to lay it out as substantive. Listen, we have thousands of highly educated citizens in this country at this time. Thousands. It's not like the 60 when, there were 5 graduates coming home. Every year now we have 200 graduates coming home. You see. So and then another 500 stay outside. They're still connected with Grenada. It's Grenada by and large. So I'm saying that when you look at the demographic issue and you look at the educational expansion in and surrounding the Ghanaian society, there is the capacity and the appetite for people to engage in policy development at a very serious level. So don't just tell me something on the TV. Give me a document. I can sit down home, I can read this, and I send you back some comments. And we need to, in my view, I would like to see us get there.
I think that's what you said. You said the younger voter is in a pairing mode. Middle-aged voter is better educated. Working class is more conscious. Working class is much larger than 20 years ago. All groups rely on information over emotion in making political choices. But we have to take a short break here. Viewers, we'll be right back.
Well, you
I got you.
Man, you go to the vine. You tap on the vine.
Where we come.
Concerned about your general health and wellness?
Do you need to know your complete blood count, lipid profile, or HbA1c?
Maybe you need to get a renal, thyroid, or liver function test.
Interested in STI screening for HIV, syphilis, herpes, chlamydia, or gonorrhea?
All of these tests, plus hundreds more, are available at Allied Laboratories.
Allied Laboratories welcomes you. You can find us here on Gladstone Road in Grenville, in the building next to Calico, on the second floor, adjacent to Dr. Isaac's office. Or you can find us here on Grand Anse Main Road, adjacent to South Winds, opposite the entrance of XL Plaza. Contact our Grenville branch at 410-3488 or 419-1588, or send us an email at alliedlabgrenville@gmail.com. You can contact our Grand Anse branch at 403-3488 or 404-3488, or send us an email at alliedlabstgeorge@gmail.com.
Fit for life and Allied Laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
Welcome back, viewers. I'm here with our special guest, of course, William Joseph. William, before the break, well, of course, we were talking about the cultural, creative economy, but Spice Mass 23, the theme, Spice Mass, the evolution. And by the way, I just want to say that the lines are now open. Viewers, you can call, and we will be willing, we'd be happy to entertain your question or your comments on the program. Spice Mass, the evolution. Preparations are ongoing. There was a successful launch, and we anticipate great participation, lots of rum, wine, nudity, fetes, lotto paying out over $100,000 in prize money. We all agree this is great for the economy. But in the patriotic vine, you talked about the essence and the emblem of Carnival, explaining that greater focus must be placed on the essence. That is the historical background, the community focus, and it should not be limited to the emblem, which you refer to as activities that generate the excitements, the party, the fed, and all those things. You want to elaborate on that? Explain the essence and the emblem, and why is the essence so important for our culture? And I also want you're also commenting about Pan, Willie. You observe there's been no growth in the patronage of Grenadians do not consume Pan as an entertainment medium. They do not fit with Pan music. But are there opportunities for the Pan growth? So first I want you to tell us about the essence and the emblem of Carnival, and also the situation of Pan in Grenada. Willie.
So the Carnival has come through as something that celebrates our heritage and our culture. So there's authenticity in its roots. Okay, there are elements of it that all generations of Grenadians up to this point have respected, have celebrated, and look forward, I would say, to continuing to do so. So the essence has to do with those things, those aspects of the art form within Carnival that are indigenous, that are authentic, that are genuinely cultural. Now, there's a historical separation that has hit us because Carnival in this period, in recent years, is no longer solely about heritage and cultural issues, the celebration of that. So there is that, and there is the modern dimension of it, which has to do with costumery and fetes, entertainment of that kind. And so that the carnival has these two footings.
We have a caller on the line, William. Go ahead, caller, please.
Good night, Mr. Williams, and good night, Mr. Campbell. I have been listening to Mr. Williams for the longest time there. There's a lot of things that he say that I can't really break it down because he's speaking in high note. So I can't really break it down. Well, what I would like to find out is whether Mr. Williams is satisfied with the conduct, the attitude, the behavior of the present administration. I will agree that they have done some things that is trustworthy that people can praise them for, like for instance paying the back pay, what was needed, paying the teachers, paying teachers in the CAMCC that wasn't paid for a long time, and all other good things. But are you satisfied with the attitude, the conduct, the behavior? We hear ministers name calling in Rachifi and whatnot. Are you satisfied that things are going well as a leadership? Thank you.
Thank you, caller, very much. William, the question is very clear.
Yeah, it's very clear, and I trust I could answer in a similar vein. I am at a personal level, very comfortable with what I've seen to date. I have in the past, in my publications, pointed to things that I think ought to be addressed, and I have lamented on the failure to address certain things. I have not sensed a level of public controversy surrounding the work or activities or behavior of the government as such. There are individual cases where people gripe about this and that. I think that would always be the case. But I don't know that there is, a sort of solid body of experience to say that, listen, we can detect a trend here that this government is going to cause us problems or is causing us problems, or we won't be happy with this government because here is what they're doing or not doing. I don't know. I have not heard about corruption on the part of individual ministers. I have not heard about that. So I don't know. I can't join the caller and comment on that at all. I don't know. But a short answer to his question is that I personally, I feel very comfortable with the government's performance. And I would say that there are areas that I would love to see improvements take place very, very quickly, very, very quickly, so that Grenadians, all of us, could enjoy the benefits of the work and purpose of government. The purpose of government in this case is not to pursue the interests of a political party. And that is something that we need to understand and we need to push for it. The purpose is to provide goods and services for the enjoyment of the Grenadian people. That's where we need to go. And if we are not getting that, we need to say we are not getting that, and we need to encourage them to give us what it is that we need. So that's my view on it. So up to this point, I am not ringing any alarm bells.
Okay, William, thanks for that. You were talking about the Spice Mass 23, and one of the important point here is that how do we bring Carnival to the people? One of the points you referred to in your commentary had to do with the fact that we have pay-per-view. If it is primarily young persons who attend these events, whether it's the Soca Monarch or the various events. But how can by and large, the Grenadian population participate or experience this carnival as you mentioned too, there is a television in almost every home in Grenada. Is it possible, if I want to see it, I have to pay directly for it? I have to go on my phone and subscribe and direct money to it. What are the other mechanisms that can allow the average viewer to see Carnival?
See, we need to reckon with the state of play. Okay, the aspects of Carnival that generations of us cherish, and with the passage of time and so on, and with the changes, those things are being pushed further and further off the burner now. So there's now some urgency to ensure that those things don't get pushed off the burner at all. So we must bring them back. Mm-hmm. And it's going to cost us something to bring them back. So I have argued in there elsewhere that Lotto, for example, that spends a huge sum of money in the context of Grenada and, Grenada's business, supporting Carnival. But it is poor and ordinary Grenadians who buy and support Lotto on a daily basis. So this ordinary Grenadian who is backing Lotto, Carnival is coming, Lotto is sponsoring the Carnival, but he cannot see the Carnival events that he would love to see on his television.
Yeah.
So there's a problem right there. He needs to see it, because if he doesn't see it, it means increasingly we are losing, generations are going to be losing and not experiencing the value of those things that are so important for us. So I would say that the authorities need to look at this question of bringing Carnival on the television home to Grenadians. There might be a lot of us who don't want to see on our television some of the nakedness and so on. Mm-hmm. But we might want to see the jab, or we might want to see the short knee, or we might want to see something of the kind, certainly steel band, panorama, we would want to see that. So let us bring those things that are wholesome in that respect, bring it to us in our homes. And an aspect of that has to do with educating the younger generations on some of the elements of the Carnival traditionally. So we call them traditional masks now. But what do we know about the Veco? What do we know in terms of its history and so on? How do we interpret the performances that they engage in? What do we know about the Wild Indian and the Shortney? We don't. So there are opportunities there, I think, for us to use the services of Grenadians who are in the know on these things to help to provide a public education that the society could benefit from regarding Carnival. Now the pan music. You see, pan music is important, but there's a problem, because on the one hand, unlike 50 years ago when the pan man was a hoodlum, a bajan, a fighter in the street, a street fighter by and large. Yeah. Today, pan music is played by very, very decent, also educated young people. Yeah. But young people do not go to Panorama.
Why?
You see why? Because young people, we don't have this tradition of going in a theater and sit down to an orchestral performance. Yeah. Panorama is an orchestral performance, right? Back in the day, villages, these bands were connected and rooted in villages, so villages came out.
Yes, that's correct.
Right? A lot of that has changed now.
Yeah.
So the pan music has gotten better and better. I have argued, and it is true, that outside of Trinidad, Grenada has the best pan music in the Caribbean, outside of Trinidad. Mm-hmm. But the patronage is not there for it. And it has to do with the fact that the consumer of Carnival products is typically now young people. And young people are in the fete mode. That's where they are.
But you mentioned something important there, Willie. You had mentioned about the fact that might consider the Panyard as a place of entertainment. And also Pan on the street.
Yes.
To jump.
To jam.
Elaborate on
To
this.
jam.
Yes.
Yeah. So to me, the challenge, we ought to see Pan from a broader perspective of panorama.
Yeah.
Which is the orchestral competition.
Yeah.
Performing on a stage. Because we can offer Pan music to consumers at other venues. The Panyard is one such place. So the Pan Association might spend some time and so on, talk with some people who understand how you whip up events and make them attractive, and sell people that.
Yeah.
Sell people a Panyard experience. Come there and it's not you get this and you get that and you see this and you see that. Pan on the street. Yeah, we are not fettered with Pan in the traditional sense. But when we are liming and Pan music is playing, we can stay and jam. You see? So there are aspects of this thing where we must meet the market. We must meet the market.
Yeah.
And that challenge is for the people involved to address.
I mean, Carriacou comes up from time to time from a cultural dimension, the various cultural activities that takes place there, the Maroon Festival, they have their own unique carnival. In fact, Grenada has two carnivals. What are the potential for, again, looking at the creative economy for Carriacou to be a feature, to attract, and as you said, to make money? I mean, putting it quite simple, really. What are the opportunities there that you see for Carriacou in particular from a cultural perspective?
Yeah. Yes. My kayak friends would say that Carriacou is a cradle of culture. In the country.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anybody would argue against that.
Is it attractive, the resources
You see, there is that concern. There's also the question of investment that is necessary so that the youngsters buy into it from school, right? Otherwise, it's going to die as the generations get older. So there's a challenge there regarding the longevity of these things and the need for investments to take place at the community and school levels to ensure that the young generations of kayaks, in this case, are introduced to the thing. They understand the value, they understand its contribution to social and community life in Carriacou, and so on. Now, a month or so ago, they held the Maroon and String Band Festival up there, and that is a product that is really, really powerful. You see, the consumer is not going to necessarily attract thousands and thousands, but Carriacou can't accommodate thousands and thousands anyway.
No.
So what you want is an offering, a product offering that would land on Carriacou a 500-600 good quality paying people for a week.
Yeah.
Right? So they rent all the vehicles and they rent the apartments and guest houses and so on, and they spend money in Carriacou. And they get a value for it. It is not the typical fete. It's not because we don't live by fete alone, right? There are other things that people value in their lives.
Yes.
And if you look at the video of Strings in the City, which is one of the components of the Carriacou and String Band Music Festival, I mean, this thing, I have looked at it maybe 10 times in the last 3 weeks before I go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, just the positivity to look at people dancing 12 o'clock in the hot sun to string band music
Yeah.
By the way, the Country Boys is the best playing string band
Well,
in the whole
well.
wide world. I mean, that's top quality boys, you know what I mean? And Slim and the boys, are my boys. So it's great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we coming to an end. That's just about all the time we have. But one of the things we touched on a lot, and I don't think we got a complete answer from you on it, is 1 year on, the NDC office. I think we'd like to have you back, William, particularly how you review, because I assume that the government will be articulating the accomplishments, challenges in the first year. So some analysis of this, would you come back?
Well, but of course, I encourage you to go further with your program.
Yes.
And if you think that I can be of value to your viewership, by all means.
Thank you. Oh, very much so.
All right.
William, it's certainly a pleasure having you. I want to give credits to our production team, Dwayne Francique, graphic design and technical director, Nikita Hostin, camera, Elton Maitland, switcher, and Gregory Mitchell, audio. Viewers, listeners, I want to thank you very much. Byron, Campbell, good night, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.